Welcome back. And away from politics now to fire incidents that have marked this season, albeit in a very, very distressing manner. The recent one being one recorded in Ikotu Market, where 4 shops, according to reports, were razed by fire. And let's talk about this and see just how well, these incidents can be prevented in the future. And joining us on the program is Mr. Abiola Aderibigbe, a construction and engineering law expert who joins us virtually this morning on the program. Mr. Aderibigbe, good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Good morning, Bukala and Kaide. Happy New Year to you both, and thank you for having me. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. Happy
New Year to you as well. Just when we were yet to recover from the great Nigeria insurance fire that happened in Balogun Market in Lagos, there's yet another in Ikotu Market where 4 shops, according to reports, were razed by fire. How are you processing this? Is this a case of coincidence or human error?
Well, before I say anything, I wish to express my sincere condolences to everyone affected by these incidents. The families who may have lost homes, traders whose livelihoods have been affected, and communities that have been deeply impacted. These events affect real lives, and they must remain at the center of discussion about safety and any sort of reform. And to your question, it's a bit difficult and troubling to process, because what we've seen in Lagos in recent days, including the fire incident at Great Nigeria Insurance House on Lagos Island as well, around Christmas Eve, and of course, as you mentioned, the fire involving electronic shops in the Kontu area is deeply troubling. And we know that these are not isolated events. For example, I could also mention the Afraland fire that happened earlier in the year, or perhaps the FIRS fire that happened in Abuja on the 20th of December as well. The truth is that these reoccur way too many times for comfort.
Indeed. And I know you're trying to champion better construction practices, because if anything, we love erecting buildings in this part of the world. You just blink and you've seen a high rise and you begin to wonder, where would vehicles park, for example? How would emergency services get access to this place if there's a case of fire incident, right? And you look across border, it looks like nobody really cares. Just put that building there, let's collect rent and make good money. So is this a year we should start rethinking our building practices? What is fundamentally wrong? And can we really achieve that, seeing that all these buildings are up or almost done already?
That's a fantastic question, Kaide. And I believe this is a year to start rethinking just how we plan buildings, if there's a need for repurposing buildings, if there's a need for upgrading buildings, and the approach we take to doing so. Now, I want to be clear about something. These issues or these incidents are not really about putting or blaming any one individual, any one government or institution. But it's about, to the core of your question, Kaide, it's about understanding risk and preventing harm. And I believe that there are essentially 2 broad ways to approach a matter like this. The first being the system of fire safety and preparedness, and then the second being what you alluded to, Kaide, a more systemic route, essentially looking at how these buildings are built, what spacing is like, how it works from an approval level, and what accurate town planning should be. Now, if I may add, I caught the episode on Boxing Day with Mrs. Farah Williams, a fellow of the Institute of Safety Professionals at ISPAN, and she spoke very compellingly about the need for trained fire wardens, properly placed fire extinguishers, fire marshals on every floor, clear safety rules, all those are safety plans, and those are all quite important and are key to preventing incidents like this. They're fundamental. However, when fires occur repeatedly in dense commercial environments like we have in Lagos, they are rarely the result of a single fault. More often, they are the outcome of a chain of issues that build up over time. So how buildings are designed, how they're constructed, and how they're used. What is stored in them, whether ventilation is adequate, and whether safety systems are properly inspected and maintained over the course of the lifetime of the building. So Essentially, I believe, long story short, I believe this is the year definitely to address how these are erected, if there are corrections to be made. I know that Governor Sanwo-Olu ordered the buildings to be turned not for a consume, but for the occurrence in GNI to basically be turned down after the fire incident. But these have to be revisited, and we have to have a better, more strategic, more holistic planning towards putting buildings together, and that actually sits at the heart of my of the construction reform I'm advocating for, which is essentially a Nigerian Construction Act that unifies how things like this are supposed to be executed.
And during that conversation, I recall that she did also talk about facility management. I wonder how much of that is incorporated into the orientation of managing, these public buildings that particularly house commercial, structures. And so who should be taking responsibility, for that kind of orientation? Should we be calling out state governments for the lack or the need to have more public safety commissions that will incorporate codes and ethics of managing facilities to prevent fire or to ensure quicker response to managing fire incidents when they do occur?
So, Bukola, that's a very fantastic question. And what I will say to that is everyone bears responsibility. No one is excluded, from the person who develops the building to those who are inspecting that the building is up to snuff, up to code, to even the laws and the codes that we have ourselves. Now, the issue in Nigeria generally is we do have a national building code in Nigeria. We have standards on paper in Nigeria, but those national building codes are not by themselves binding law. They have to be essentially passed, descend down to domestic law for the states. And that is causing fragmentation between states on how it is implemented across Nigeria. So you have uneven implementation of the code. Now, if you were to ask me specifically, because I'm going to tell you, I do not think that the national building code does enough. The 2006 iteration, as revised in 2017, I don't think they do enough. I think that we need an all-encompassing federal law, unified law that deals with construction generally, parked in one legislative framework. And this is exactly what I'm advocating for. And in fact, what I'm pushing, the Nigerian Construction Act I'm pushing and advocating for, is based on 5 co-equal pillars. One's got to do with contractor registration and grading, so to ensure that anybody who is developing, building, working on a building is competently qualified to do so. Unfortunately, in industry in Nigeria at the moment, anybody can come and say, I'm a developer, I'm a builder, right? It is not as strictly regulated or enforced as it ought to be. So we need contractor grading and contractor registration. That's the first. The second is we need a conscious health and safety HSE arm towards whatever we are building, so that health and safety comes to the very fore right as you start building. In fact, even before you start building, you're already considering the health and safety implications and the environmental implications. And then thirdly, we have your typical anti-corruption and governance tranche. Fourthly, we've got a tranche to do with payments adjudication, which is just about, because cash flow is an issue generally as well within the building sector, how we deal with that. And then finally, we've got the 5th tranche, which has to deal with ensuring that if we're getting any experts coming in outside of the country to help build, that knowledge that you bring is also thought and flowed down to the Nigerian community. So that's essentially the 5 pillars that my Construction Act is based on. And I'm saying that if we've got that contractor grading, contractor registration arm of the pillar, the people that will undertake any building or any development in Nigeria will be people that we are satisfied are competently qualified to do so.
Well, it's a lot to deal with, and I think it's something that can be done. But, that happens usually before or during, and then there's the aftermath. So these fires, for example, there are those who strongly believe there's some hanky-panky at play. There's something untoward at play here. In fact, some of them would say, I can bet you someone probably put a fire to my store, or this is beyond electrical fault. So there's also the big part of investigation and really pinpointing what caused a fire. But too many times after these fires happen, they put the fires out, they leave the businesses and the families to rue their losses, both human and material losses. And that's all we hear, and we just move on to the next one. So I really just want to reiterate that we must strengthen our investigative process as well. Same way we're able to investigate what happened to this aircraft, how did it crash? We should be able to also pinpoint and say, oh, this is how this fire started. Is it arson? Is it an electrical fault? Is it a fault of whatever? I just wanted to put that out. But on a final note, just how optimistic are you that laws would actually sail through something like what you're planning? How optimistic are you that it will be taken on board by the National Assembly and it will be followed through with, understanding that lawmaking in Nigeria is sometimes extreme sport?
You're not wrong. Sometimes it is. But what I'm going to say is I have to be positive, because the truth is there are too many lives lost with matters and issues like this. Since 1974, we've had over 671, according to the Building Collapsing Guild, we've had over 671 buildings collapse. We've lost over 1,600 lives. Every Nigerian life is valuable. I'm going to say this again. Every Nigerian life is valuable. We cannot continue to lose lives with fire incidents like this, random building collapses, when we as a nation could do better. So do I think it is easy to pass this through? No. But what keeps me optimistic, or what keeps me positive about it, is the fact that there is a need to do something about it. And that's what fuels me and keeps me motivated.
It looks like we have time for just one more. And, you know, just while you spoke, I was looking at those videos and I saw how some of those traders were throwing their goods, trying to salvage what was left of their goods through windows, and that speaks to a lack of safety exits and, you know, just how defective some of those constructions are. And in Lagos Island, where we'll be looking at it yet again on the screen, we can see how close the buildings are, you know, to each other, and that's the, you know, one significant trait, or if you like, attribute of some of the structures, predominantly in the Lagos Island area. So what should we be doing about your proposal beyond positivity? What should we be doing right now in terms of lobbying to get this through to the National Assembly and hopefully a domestication at the State Assembly level?
It's a fantastic question, Bukola, and thank you for asking. Firstly, I think sometimes in Nigeria we forget that we as a collective have a voice. We as a nation need to be speaking to our representatives, speaking to our governors, speaking to our reps, etc., to say that we're demanding safety at the forefront regarding building and construction. If the nation demands better, our politicians, our leaders, institutions who are in charge of safety, etc., will have to listen to us. And a first step is me being here with you guys, for which I'm extremely grateful, because I know this is going to echo around corridors and people will start to put two and two together, looking at how to approach, looking at how to get the message out there that it's time for change. Kayode, to your question earlier on, I fully believe 2026 is a time for change.
Right.
And I'm saying that this year is a year for no more fire incidents like this, no more building collapses. We as a nation can do better, and I'm looking forward to Nigeria doing better.
All right.
A fine place to anchor, and here's where we say thank you very much for coming on the program this morning, and we hope that beyond this, it will move beyond talk and we'll see action in the coming days. We really do not want to have this kind of conversation this time, 2026. Thank you very much, sir. We've been talking with Mr. Abiola Aderibigbe, construction and engineering law expert. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Bukola. Thank you, Kayode.